Hello, I'd like to show you how you can use some software like Pad to make a circuit board. Other software is very similar. I'm going to start with File, New. I will accept the size of the board as 4 inches by 3 inches and 2 layers. The 2 layers are the top and the bottom. Next, I'm going to place some components onto the board. So I'll go to the component icon, click here, and I don't want a capacitor, and I don't want surface mount. I want through hole, and I want a dip right there. I'm going to put on a 8-pin dip, which could be used for a tiny 13. Place onto the board. I'm going to put 2 of them on here, one there, good. Next, I'm going to put on a powered transistor, like a 7805, and this is under transistors, transistor regulator, voltage regulator, 78XX. That'll be fine. Place on the board. Let's put it somewhere up here, perhaps. We'll zoom in a little bit. The 3 pins here are in, ground, and out. The ground is going to go to the ground of our chips. So let's make over here, right there, this one right here is a logical connection tool. We're going to go from ground to ground. We're going to call it ground. It's a good name. And then we'll go from pin 4 to pin 4. Next, we're going to go from out, that's 5 volts by the way, I should say, to pin 8. I'll call this VCC. And then from that pin 8 to this pin 8. Next. The input of the 7805 needs to go to, the power supply. So I'm going to make a, this isn't exactly what you might do, but I'm going to do it anyway. Here's a hole. I put on, click over here for the hole, and the hole, let's just see what the hole size is. So I'm going to click on this, and the hole size is shown. You could make it bigger if you wish, so I'll make it bigger for fun. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect that hole to the input. And this hole would be where the 9 volts comes in or 12 volts comes in, and the regulator would bring it down to 5 volts. Again, the regulator converts the higher voltage to a consistent, smooth 5 volts. Let's have the computer route all the traces. So I'm going to say route all. And it's going to do some thinking. It's going to figure out where to run the wires, and it's using red for the top layer, and it might use green for the bottom layer. It's all done. All of the trace wires are, whoops, I see a green one here. So that one is on the bottom layer. You could add more layers, wires I should say. How about from this pin to perhaps this pin? Or maybe this pin to this pin. And if you want to see how the computer is going to route them, go back to Tools, hit Route, and Route All. And the nice thing about the routing software is that it does all the work for you. If you move something, it keeps the logical connections and we'll be able to reroute it. Let's say, we'll let this proceed here. So the computer finished routing the wires, and there is the result. Suppose you want to take a component and rotate it. So I selected this tiny 13, and I'm going to rotate it. Click, oh there we go, rotate, right? and the wires aren't proper, so you'd have to, run the reroute again. It's entirely possible to copy a section of the circuit and paste it again, so you'd have two copies of that particular section. This is handy if you have multiple circuits that are the same. You can come over here to this and have the computer just show you the top layer perhaps, or maybe just the bottom layer. So you can check or uncheck the layers and it will display them accordingly. As you can see, I unchecked the bottom so the green wires disappear and you're only looking at the top layer to see how it looks. You can also add text to your design. You can say you can put your name, like maybe Bob made this design. You hit OK, and you can place that. Let's try again here. B-O-B. Let's come on. Okay, so you can see I put in some text here. The text is nice if you want to comment on the board. Well, this is just a introduction to how this software works. You can play with it. It's kind of fun. Under Tools, when you're ready to make an order, you would first go to Job and then Analyze. Click here to see if your workmanship is appropriate. If you have a bad design, like wires are crossing or wires are too small or wires go off the board, it will tell you of such. After you analyze it, you can get a price and you can actually place an order.